The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's The Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Welcome back again. Another Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook and YouTube. We really appreciate all the support over on social media. Thank you so much for joining us again. Clemson headed into Tallahassee this weekend and abruptly turned around the bus and got back on the plane and came back. We will be talking about that and the disappointment that was this weekend and the frustration that was Dabo Swinney's press conference last night. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But that's not the only thing we're going to talk about. We're going to look back at the other picks that we had against the spread for week number 12 and tell you our good ones and bad ones. I'll go ahead and let you know Mr. Houston Burnett down at the bottom of the screen. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. He went 7-1 against the spread. I'm sure he's going to let you know about it this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yes,
he will continue to rub it in, even though Alan and I went 5-3. So another, I believe that's 2 weeks in a row, gentlemen, where we all had winning records after this weekend. And I think that's going to be good for our end of the year record. So I'm looking forward to it. We are going to let Houston be the honorary go first picker of the night and let him just show off how good he is. And if we want to cheat off of what he picks, then we might as well do that, especially going 7-1 and missing. The only miss was that Liberty NC State game. We'll talk about that. But thank you so much again. Al, I hope you had a good week, even though there was no Clemson football. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, man, it's a tough week, man. This is 2 weeks now. This is not supposed to happen. I don't like it one bit. Of course, we're all a little salty against the Seminoles right now, and as with good reason. And hey, just looking forward to a home game against Pitt this Saturday. So it's gonna be nice to hopefully finally get back on the field.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Clemson playing against Pitt, even though I'm reading some articles. You never know, because Pitt was like 18 players down. I think that's the difference between a team that actually wants to play football versus a team that wants to not play football. And that is that one team plays with 18 players down, still wins a game. Another team, has the opponent with one COVID test and decides not to play the game. We'll get into that a little bit more. I'm jumping the gun here, but Houston, again, welcome, congratulations, and how was your weekend?
It was all right. I put up an extra storage unit in my garage out of anger for not having a game. But you know what? I just want to tell the masses. We're going to bring you great information that's up to date, unlike the misinformation that you'll hear at a Florida State press conference. Oh, and by the way, my picks, I've got a better record than Mike Norvell Mike Norvell at Florida State right now. So just tune in, everybody. We're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. It's going to be all right.
There's a lot of coaches you could have said that about. You probably could have said that about, I don't know, maybe Will Muschamp, but and some other coaches that have been in Carolina or, other coaches out there. But again, thank you so much. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, we really appreciate it. We're glad to get back, even though there was no Clemson game last night. Let me check in over on YouTube. Please make sure you get in and like and share and subscribe to our channel. I know we have a few people watching right now. We kind of get more as the show goes on. But another thing I want you to do is get in the chat and chat away. Randy's already in there. Love the title. This is episode 88. Man, we've done 88 of these, getting closer and closer, one a week, 88. And this is the one where FSU refused to play. That was my title. I kind of play up, the old Friends titles. I've been trying to do that the past couple of shows because I like them so much, and this one just felt right because it's really the truth. If you want to be honest, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. Florida State, representatives will not say that, but we know that that's what it is, right? So if you're on YouTube, I'm not sure the best way to share it. I did share it over on Reddit. I tried to share it on TigerNet, but I never know how it works. But if you're on YouTube, wherever you're watching, make sure you get in with a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. Get in the comments. We'll give you a shout out for sure, whatever you want there. And if you have any questions, get in there as well. On Facebook, Al, I don't know, you always talk about your chat's messing up. Hopefully the chat's not messing up tonight. Hopefully we got a ton of people in there. I'm going to jump over on Facebook and give some shares as well. The best thing on Facebook, too, is to like and share. Follow our page as well. Al, we got any kind of return visitors over there on Facebook?
Man, so on Facebook right now, we got about 17. Kevron Harris is with us as always, and we got Casey Cregan, who is rapidly becoming one of our better viewers out there. Four Paul's Bill Lanham is with us. Trey Carter even got in. Al Kuhn. Al Kuhn, I got to tell you, if he keeps joining on time, I'm not going to be able to make fun of him anymore, and I'm not sure how I really feel about that. So we appreciate Al with us, of course. Mark Childress, Clemson royalty, in with us as well. Your lovely wife, Audrey Thomas, is with us. Dean Cox, the Hat, is there with us as well. And we got a lot of good people over here. A lot of big time Clemson names here on Facebook. So we appreciate the support. Get in the chat, be active, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about what we think, and we'll have a good time tonight.
Two things about Mr. Dean Cox. One, thank you so much for joining and watching the show. We love you, man. We need to get you back in as a guest. I've been thinking about you. I thought about you as you went to Florida State. You made your videos and you were driving back. You had about 7 hours to come back. Really, really hate it for you, Big Dave. Everybody else that made the trip down there only to be turned around. I saw the video where you showed the gate was locked. That's just really disappointing and frustrating as a whole, even for fans that didn't go. And then on the second thing is, I'm starting to see more posts of Clemson softball. So I hope to see Mr. Dean Cox back on the front row back there behind home plate. If he gets those tickets again, we'll see. But I'm really excited for some Clemson softball. I think they're going to do well again. You mentioned Mark Childress again, our friend. He calls some of those games. He has the opportunity for that too. So really looking forward to that. Got Jeff Holly. He does the PA announcing for. I'm gonna try to get him on the show as well to talk about Clemson softball because I really love it. You know, I love it because I have been told don't write about Clemson softball because it doesn't bring in the viewers. Well, hey, I'll tell you this, doesn't bring in the readers. Well, I don't believe that. I look at what happened last year. Softball team, I think, could have went to the playoffs and going to do great, I believe, again this year. And the stadium was always packed. So I know there are fans out there that want some Clemson softball. I know my parents, grandparents, and friends from high school all wanted a Clemson softball team. So I'm looking forward to year number 2 because I felt like year number 1 was kind of a ripoff. I think they could have gone all the way. So I'm excited for it. But Dean, get in, let us know what you think. Tell us some thoughts about it. We got a ton of people over on Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and share some more to some of the groups. If you haven't already, like and share, and then get in the chat. Get in the chat because Alan is always checking and looking through. But let's get into our show sponsor, our main show sponsor. You know we got to give some love to our title sponsor there, and that's Black's Tire Inc. 864-647-9292. Dale and Preston, family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc. Located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Again, Westminster, right close to the stadium, close to Seneca. Past the stadium, Seneca, and then get into Westminster. You see it right there on the right. Those guys have been doing that for a long time. Aunts, uncles, grandparents have all been there, family owned and operated, and that's the kind of stuff you want to support for sure. And that's why we support them. They support us. So thank you so much, guys, for doing that. Again, segment number 1, we talk about a quick overview of kind of our picks against the spread. And again, Houston, great job, my friend. I just want to give you some more shout out, give you some props for sure, because you're holding up the team for sure. You have brought it back in to the winning record. You have joined me in your overall record. You're now 57-55. Big Al 55-57. So you just swap places there. And then I am 58-54. So just one game up on Mr. Houston there. So I'm getting a little bit nervous, and as you'll see probably later on the night, I'm changing up my tactics. Not only is Houston going to go first, but I'm not going to allow him to pick as many games. So I'm going to do everything I can. Just call me Dominion. I'm going to do everything I can to stop Houston from winning this race. So let's talk about some of the games here. We do ACC, and we do some top 5 games of the week. ACC, Syracuse at Louisville. Louisville just destroyed Syracuse, but I rewatched the game. Really wasn't that pretty for either. Syracuse is literally the worst team in America, so you really can't even brag about it. Who knows their quarterback? Last name is Morgan. I thought he would do better. He got destroyed. He has no offensive line, and it's just really sad to even watch Syracuse. So congratulations there, Houston, with a lone wolf picker, because Alan and I thought, there's so many injuries out there. Give me the plus 18. And didn't work out for us. So that was one of the ones that Houston had. I believe he had 3 lone wolf winners of the weekend. So good job there, Houston. Next one was Wake Forest at Duke. That one got canceled. And that one was one we had listed down as fishy. All of us went for Wake Forest, but we'll see if they we'll see. I think I put down canceled, so it doesn't look like they're going to actually redo that game. Virginia Tech at Pittsburgh. This is another one I rewatched as well. What did we say? All three of us hammered home on Pittsburgh, and we were correct. It was the home underdog, but Pittsburgh's defensive line stood up that offensive running attack for Virginia Tech. I'll get into that more when we talk about them versus Clemson, because Pittsburgh, get this, against one of the best rushing teams, the best rushing team in the ACC, one of the best rushing teams in the country, they beat them. Where's it at? They allowed no rushing touchdowns in that game. So, and A.J. Dillon was the lead rusher, not Khalil Herbert for Virginia Tech. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Pittsburgh also outrushed them, or had a better rusher, and then they both actually had about even. I think it was 156 yards to 152 yards, but no rushing touchdowns for Virginia Tech. The only way they could get it done was passing the ball, and they didn't win the game. The next one up was Abilene Christian at Virginia. We didn't pick that one. And then Liberty at North Carolina State. I did not actually watch this game. I tried to get in and listen to the highlights on it, but I didn't get it. I did see some of it. It looks like it was a pretty good back and forth. North Carolina State looked like they did really well running the ball. Obviously, Zonovan Knight, there, doing well. But it came down to a missed field goal. At the end, Liberty had a chance to win the game. That was one that Houston lost. So Liberty goes down. They're now no longer undefeated. But and you lost the lone wolf pick there. But are you really upset with that? I mean, I felt like, it was a good game overall. And so what were your thoughts with that? That was really your only loss of the weekend.
Well, the team that I picked to win won. I was picking NC State to win. The problem was they did not capitalize. When NC State got the pick at the end, when it was 15-14, I believe they were in Liberty territory. I was like, this is when this happens. I'm going perfect tonight. NC State's going to punch this in and win by 8, and I'm going to go home feeling good. They didn't. Liberty got the ball back, and they were a field goal away from me going, man, Liberty's going to be making some noise and really play. If you play Coastal Carolina and beat them, they might actually have a shot at going to like a New Year's Six bowl or I don't know. I don't know how far they can go with this, but field goal's blocked. Liberty loses. Hugh Freeze will be the next coach at either Tennessee or Auburn.
Not South Carolina. Interesting you didn't say that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, he said that. He said he's at peace at Liberty. I guarantee you that peace might change a little bit if it comes in the form of light orange or blue and orange on the plains. That might change it a little bit. Change his peace a little bit.
The Bible talks about peace that transcends all understanding. I think when you don't become a coach of South Carolina, you get that same kind of feeling, that kind of just deep peace. But next up was Coastal Carolina and App State. Man, let me tell you something. That was a good game to watch. I watched about half of it live, and then I got a bunch of the replays, and I mean, it was really back and forth. App State had the lead for a good amount of the game, to be honest with you. I didn't know if Coastal was going to be able to pull it out. But what happened was, it seemed like in the second half, really, App State their quarterback started throwing interceptions, and they really started to hurt them. Not only did they capitalize on them, but man, they did a backdoor cover at the end of the game. And Kwok and Walt and everybody was just jumping up and down on Twitter because of that backdoor cover at the very end with a pick six, no less. So what do you think? I mean, Coastal now continues to stay undefeated. It was a little hard for me to watch. I don't mind the teal field. I just don't like necessarily the brown end zone. I'd rather them have picked like maybe a black or something in the end zone. It just doesn't look right to me. And with that bright sunlight on there, it was a little tough to watch. But I mean, teal's better than some other colors I've seen out there. So, Houston, what's your thought on that one too?
Yeah, Coastal played really well. I was worried about this game going in, picking Coastal. App State is a really good team and it's been there before. I feel like App State's probably going to be the team most likely out of all the Power 5 teams next year to make noise enough to get within the New Year's Six striking distance. But Coastal's a good team. They played really well on defense, made all the necessary adjustments. I will say this, after watching them and catching up with Liberty, I'm swinging more on the Liberty bandwagon when that game gets here at the end of the season. Liberty has played 3 ACC opponents, beaten 2 of them, and almost beat a third. Coastal, very good, great season. They're America's team, but you're struggling with App State. I tend to lean Liberty and Malik Willis on that one coming up in the future.
I mean, Malik Willis looked good for sure. Al, here's one I wanted to ask you about, because we hadn't forgot about you over there. But, you're about to go get you something to eat for dinner.
I'm bursting over here.
Indiana. Man, Indiana starts out, Ohio State jumps all over them. Justin Fields, here we go again. I'm thinking, great. Not only did Florida State screw Clemson over with not playing, but they also hurt Trevor Lawrence in this whole Heisman Trophy debate, that I'm really get chapped about. But then, after halftime, I mean, Indiana stuck with them. And one of the quotes there, Ty Freifogel scored a touchdown. And the announcer there, I can't remember his name. I should have wrote it down. But he's the one that has the great voice, for the Big Ten there. But him and the other guy from Fox that always do those big games. But he said Freifogel fried him on the touchdown. I thought, yeah, that works great. But Freifogel and Penix Jr. did really good together. They stayed in the game and kept fighting and had a chance twice with 7 points, within 7 points, to try to win the game towards the end. And Justin Fields looked a little off with 3 interceptions, I believe, for that game. Had to lean on Master Teague, which I know the great name there, Freifogel and Master Teague. But what were your thoughts on that game looking back? I mean, it seems like Ohio State's, we all thought their defense was going to take a little bit of a step back because of all the people they lost to the NFL.
Yeah, I think their defense is actually taking a major step back. I'm not very impressed with their defense at all. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble when they come up against an Alabama or a Clemson potentially in the playoffs. But that was a great game. I think it went 35-7 at one point, and I kind of turned it. I wasn't even looking at it. I was watching the other games that we had picked. Seeing what those would bring, and then all of a sudden I see down at the ticker it says. I think it went 48-28 or something, or 42-28. I was like, wow, they brought it within 2 touchdowns. And I clicked back and I was like, I have to watch this. Of course, then they got the other touchdown on that great reception that I thought was going to be called pass interference, and then taking an offensive pass interference. When I took a second look, it really wasn't. It was a good non-call by the refs to bring it within a touchdown. And man, I was pulling for Indiana. I told you I have a guy, our former basketball coach Mark Springer, is a big Hoosiers guy. So I was really pulling for the Hoosiers. Oh gosh, I wanted them to win that game. It was tough to see, but they couldn't get anything going. And now we still, for whatever reason, are going to have to listen to Justin Fields and the Heisman, even though he threw 3 interceptions in a game. So always disappointing. Disappointed that that Indiana couldn't pull out the victory there, because I know had they scored a touchdown, they were going for 2 and trying to win that game.
Yeah, I think so. I think they would have tried to put just try to win that game at the very end. For me, when I see Indiana, I mean, they're a pretty complete team. They got a pretty stout defense that can keep you in the game. I know, like I said, the score got out of hand a little bit early, but then they brought it back in. Ohio State didn't let them stretch it too far out there. But it is tough to try to win a game when they're over 40 points like that. But I would say when I watch that offense, I mean, do you think it's really more playmakers between Penix and Freifogel that makes you kind of, at least makes people like me want that for Clemson? Is it the playmakers? Do you think it's the play calling? Because sometimes I'm like, man, I wish that Clemson would do some of these things that Indiana is doing. It looks good. But then again, I start to think, well, maybe it's not that they're doing anything different. Maybe it's because they have like a really stout number 1 in Freifogel. And Clemson, while Amari Rodgers is great, is really more of like a more agile Travis Etienne, instead of say, for example, Freifogel or Justin Ross.
I'll say this too. Freifogel is not the number 1 on Indiana's wide receiving core. Watt Fillier is. And he had a big game too. Watt Fillier, Justin Freifogel. I think it's a combination of both. I don't think people realize that Indiana for the past, 8 to 10 years has been on this slow and steady rise to like building and building and building. It started with Kevin Wilson. He got fired with the allegations that they had with a player mistreatment, and then in steps Tom Allen. no one realizes that this system was built in place when Kalen DeBoer was their offensive coordinator a couple years ago. He got asked to be the head coach of Fresno State. Very talented offensive mind. I think what Tom Allen is doing is similar to what Dabo did. He's surrounding himself with very disciplined, very, very smart-minded coaches that are able to evaluate and game plan, and you're starting to see it come together. Now, I don't know how much talent they're going to be able to amass in the future, but I will say if they're able to keep the majority of this team together next year, Indiana might be the team to beat or close to it, because Ohio State's going to have to go to Bloomington next year, and I'd imagine that Indiana is going to have a legit shot of winning that Big Ten East.
And, it's definitely not Penn State or Michigan out there contending for Ohio State or even Wisconsin. Talking about Wisconsin, Alan and I went with Wisconsin and thought that because of the amount of points they had scored in the only 2 games they had played, that they would do better than that, but didn't really take into account they had 3 wide receivers out and their quarterback was just going to turn the ball over a bunch. Northwestern looks pretty good. They have Peyton Ramsey transfer from Indiana, who, lost the job, kind of saw the writing on the wall, but was a really good quarterback and so decided to transfer out. Plays at Northwestern, and they ended up doing well. But still, it was one of those old school games where it was very slow, methodical, going down the field, defense versus defense. Wisconsin couldn't get anything going, and Northwestern could. So that was another one that we ended up losing. And then one that was a little bit more exciting was Oklahoma. They came out and just put their foot on the gas. No points allowed in the second half against Oklahoma State. The battle for Bedlam was really nothing more than, some arguing in the trenches, but Oklahoma had the win the entire time. And I like Oklahoma, man. They looking better every single week. But then the one that really gets to you, this is the one we're going to end segment 1 on, is Cincinnati goes to, as Houston mentioned, the jump house, right? And the bounce house, excuse me. And they go play Central Florida in Orlando, have an opportunity to cover the spread, already up by 3 points. Why would you not want to score a touchdown? Alan, why?
Well, Houston obviously called in his mob connections for that one. You see him celebrating down there, and he's celebrating, and he picked the game wrong, Morgan. He picked it wrong. We picked it right. He just ended up on the right side of it, okay?
Oh.
Turn his little square off down there, please, for just a minute. Mute him for a second because we need to talk about this.
I should get a PTI plug-in so I can just freeze him in black and white.
This was a great game. It was an awesome game to watch. It was a lot of fun. Cincinnati's coming down for potentially the late cover. Obviously, they hand it off. Running back runs to the left side, wide open. Easy walk-in touchdown. And unlike a lot of teams, he did the smart thing because they had all their timeouts remaining. UCF had all their timeouts remaining, and he went down on the one because if he made them use their timeouts there, they could all but run down the clock, kick a field goal, whatever it may be. And he went down on the one, and even after that, after they made him use a couple of timeouts, they still tried to punch it in. And they were one, 2 inches away from the goal line and got stopped and got pushed back. And then they finally said, you know what, let's just go ahead and end this thing now. And then they almost fumbled it away.
And then they almost.
It was an interesting game. Cincinnati obviously could have punched it in and covered the spread had they wanted to there at the end, but they made the smart play. Kudos to the running back because it's about winning the game. Also to that running back, I hate you now.
Yeah, that's almost a you're dead to me moment. Actually, Cincinnati's not you're dead to me. Right here on this phone, Alan Adams, you're dead to me because you're the one that put it into the universe 2 minutes before it happened. He said, wait, watch, and see. Yeah. They're not going to score on purpose. They're not going to score on purpose. 2 minutes later, what do? Not score on purpose.
You can see it. I've been picking games a long time, man.
Electric.
You can see it happening a mile away.
Absolutely. Now I know what it feels like, how Auburn fans felt during the kick six.
Oh.
You have one of those moments where you're like, this should not have happened, but it did. I'm going to enjoy it. I audibly gasped. My wife didn't know what was going on. It was spectacular.
Yeah.
That should have won an SB. That play should be nominated for SB Play of the Year. Guys, got me 7-1. Thank you.
We all could have ended
welcome.
up 6-2 if it
Man.
wasn't for that dumb decision on the 1 yard line. You know, 1 yard. 1 yard cost it for us and helped Houston in that one. But again, congratulations. That's the recap of Week 12. Sans Clemson versus Florida State, as we'll talk about a little bit. We don't want to get too much into it because, as Dabo Swinney said, it's time for Pittsburgh. And we don't care if we play Florida State ever again. But before we get into that, let me tell you about Charleston Sports Pub. Charleston Sports Pub of Clemson and downtown Greenville. And they also have 4 other locations: Charleston, Somerville, Mount Pleasant, and James Island. Hours 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. CharlestonSportsPub.com. As you can see there, Charleston Sports Pub of Clemson in downtown Clemson, where Tiger legends go to dine. And that legend right there just happens to be Mr. Taj Boyd. Want to give our thoughts and prayers out to the Boyd family, Miss Carla, TJ, Taj, and in their passing of their father and husband, Mr. Tim. You know, he went in for a minor surgery, minor operation, I believe, and had some complications. And so thoughts and prayers and love to the Boyd family there. The Tiger Nation is behind you for sure. And then I want to tell you about Tiger Sports Shop. We don't just dress for success, we TS for success. Tigersports.com. All of us here during the show wearing our Tiger Sports gear. We think you should too. If you need new Tiger gear, which when would you not need new Tiger gear? Please go check out Tigersports.com. Gentlemen, so the Florida State game. Wait a minute. There was no Florida State game.
Yeah.
So getting in on YouTube, checking out. We got about 12 people on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure you like and share and subscribe to the channel. Over on Facebook, we have about 14. I think we got up to 25. But make sure you get in as well. We really appreciate it. Everybody that's already jumped in and gave a shout out. But Clemson versus Florida State postponed. And my first thought was this. So the thing was, backup redshirt freshman offensive lineman traveled, had not tested positive all week, traveled, tested positive Friday morning. They found out when they got there, they had quarantined him on the way there just to be safe, and ended up being positive. Florida State decided, nah, doesn't matter what you do, we're not playing this game at all. Even though, as Dabo Swinney has mentioned, everybody has practiced with the team and been around the team until they get a positive. Trevor Lawrence had a positive on Wednesday. He practiced with the team on Tuesday, on Monday. It's not like these players don't practice until they get a negative. They go ahead and practice, and if they get negatives, they continue to practice. If they get positives, they stop practicing. Same thing that Dabo Swinney said. If that's why you have the positive test or the tests in place on Fridays, and that's why you bring 8 more players than you normally do on a road game, is so that if you get there and somebody tests positive, you can still have enough players to play. Now, keep this in mind. Pittsburgh has a ton of positives. The rest of their team still plays the games, still travels. Virginia Tech, the first 2 games of the season, 26 players, 24 players down, still played their games. Their people still came to the games. The opponent still came. Boston College still played Clemson. Notre Dame still played Clemson. Boston College could have said, nah, we're not traveling. Trevor Lawrence has been practicing with the entire team all week. We're not traveling. We're not playing against them. And also, as Qualkenbush said on Twitter, there hasn't been a confirmed transmission between 2 teams that's been traced, because this player had it, they didn't know about it. Now this player on the opposite end that was guarding him got it and didn't know about it. So, and that's another thing. As Dabo Swinney said, you could very easily test negative on Friday and be playing as a positive player and not even know it. As we've mentioned in this show many times, I've said to my family many times, this is the worst disease, worst virus in history that you don't even know about. You don't even know if you have it. And so what do? Well, you just basically quarantine until proven innocent. I don't know. I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense. But I will say that I can agree with some Florida Staters that, you do in the circumstances in the state we are in, you want to be more cautious than not. But he didn't, according to Dabo, he didn't play Monday, didn't play Tuesday, got his negative on Monday, was allowed to play on Wednesday, got another negative on Wednesday. And as Dabo Swinney said, yeah, you have symptoms, mild symptoms. If he's getting negatives, are you supposed to keep him out and just, basically not allow him to play, even though that's the rule? As long as you're sticking to the rules and the guidelines set in place, that's what you do. Another thing that Dabo Swinney said is they have these things in place to where you can still play a game unless you have less than 7 offensive linemen or you don't have enough players to suit up. And we know that Florida State still had enough players to suit up. We know that Clemson had enough players to suit up. We know they both had offensive linemen enough to suit up. So they met all the criteria. If you saw on Twitter, they even brought a giant tent and social distance inside the tent. And to cancel the game at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday while you've got so many people already there, I can completely agree with Dabo Swinney. You want to come play us on December 12th, as some people are saying? Foot the bill. You want us to come to you? Foot the bill. You don't want us to come to you? Guess what? You either come to us or we're not playing the game. In Dabo Swinney's mind, the game has been forfeited by the administration of Florida State. Al, I'll get your reaction since, everybody else has gotten their reaction this Monday night. I know it's a little bit late, but this is when we do our show. So I want to know, Al, your reaction to that.
Yeah, look, I don't have a whole lot to say about it because everybody with a brain knows what happened this weekend. All right, they know. They can read the tea leaves. Clemson wanted to play the game. FSU really had no desire to play this game. They knew what was going to happen in the game, and they used COVID as an excuse. That's my thoughts about it. And I mean, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating for fans. And I tell you what, if Clemson's smart at all, they're not playing that game on the 12th. They're not going to do that. They need to be preparing, hopefully, for Notre Dame that weekend. That's the week before the ACC championship. You don't want Notre Dame to have 2 weeks to prepare, and you only have one. They've already beaten you this year, regardless of all the injuries, and we've talked about that. I think Clemson is a superior team, and I think they're going to get their revenge. But you don't want to give them any other advantage that you can possibly do. Can possibly give them. You don't want to get an injury, or anything like that. Clemson would be crazy to play that game. I don't care if Florida State decides to come here to Clemson. I don't think Clemson should have any part of playing that game. To me, it's a forfeit. Move on. Don't worry about Florida State till next year and beat them by 100.
Clemson should not play the game at all. What you say, Houston?
Couple of thoughts here. One, I think this is pretty much the beginning of the end of the Mike Norvell era in Florida State. If you're going to sit here and cast blame on Clemson about having a symptomatic player practicing, which is wrong information, you have ill-informed information that you're spreading. Your team's not buying in to your system. Players are opting out and leaving, and you're not wanting to play the game. This is the beginning of the end. All right, this is the Willie Taggart scenario all over again, and he cannot get control of that locker room. So that's the first thing that I want to point out. Your team is not, or Florida State's team is not buying in. That's why they did not want to play the game. They had so many opt-outs. Secondly, when this narrative shifted from Florida State didn't want to play the game to, oh, well, no one can question their intentions because of COVID, and Florida State hid behind the idiotic journalism of the mainstream media. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say it because I know Florida State is just kind of being propped up by a lot of these journalists that are saying you cannot question this. That's a punk move. That's a punk move by Florida State. I'm sorry. That's just a punk move. And I mean, personally, I want to play the game because I want to hang 100 on them this year. I know we shouldn't, and if they don't, I understand. But I want to see Dabo get on the field, look across at Mike Norvell, and say, you're in for one today, buddy. Hang on tight. And I don't care if it's in Tallahassee or Clemson or whenever. If we play them in Clemson next year, run it up. That's all I want.
Now, I'll pass it back to you. Dabo Swinney came out and said he doesn't believe that Norvell or the players had anything to do with this. He thinks this was a failure of the administration. So you think that's just coach speak or just political correctness there?
I mean, in a way, yes and no. I mean, I think that Florida State did, want to play, and maybe it wasn't Mike Norvell's, intent to cancel or anything like that. But I think the people above him saw Tamarian Terry, Marvin Wilson, James Blackman, the 27 other players that they had opt out or get hurt or leave or just check out. I mean, they've got a pulse on this. And look, we don't even see what they might see if they're at practice. If a booster or a donor or someone in the administration goes there and sees just the garbage that might be going on there on the practice field, they may have just been like, yeah, let's take this easy road out, get this game canceled. That's what I think most likely happened. Maybe it wasn't, and I don't think necessarily it was Mike Norvell, but I know someone above him probably did see that.
Well, let's check in with the chat. I don't know, Al, if you got over on Facebook, any chatter over there. Let me know what you think. I'm going to check over on YouTube here. I don't have anybody talking about specifically Clemson, Florida State, but get in on the chat over on YouTube. We really appreciate that. John Bo has already gotten in and talked about the previous games we were talking about, some questions about Clemson's wide receiver group out here in the chat. Get in there. We want to talk with you and want to talk about your whatever you want to bring up tonight. Al, you got anything in there?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments here. I had several more. Actually, I had to log back into Facebook, so those are now gone. But you got Four Paws Bill that gets in here and says it's great to hate Florida State, a.k.a. Afraid and Scare University.
Oh, and, nice. New acronym.
Always good to have one of those, right? You can never have enough. And Josh Bedingfield gets in and says one of the keys is the kid was asymptomatic by Wednesday. And that's kind of what we were talking about. We did not bring a symptomatic guy on the plane, so all that is false narrative by Florida State. And everybody that's writing for Florida State, that's garbage. That's nonsense. Clemson wouldn't do that. Clemson didn't do that. And I mean, Clemson went above and beyond the protocols, and they met everything per ACC standard. This game should have been played. It wasn't. Whatever. Time to move on. Again, I say don't even give them a chance to play this year. But Mitch, our friend Mitch Mack, we used to play some basketball with our dog fan, one of our resident dog fans, Mitch. He gets in here and was asking, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? We want to try to get a forfeit from this game. We just need to move on. And he's 100% right. It's time to move forward from this Florida State debacle and get to the next game, get to Pitt. We just need the forfeit in our minds is what I told him, because they're not going to give it to us on paper. We already know that. So let's get to Pitt and take care of business.
Speaking of Pitt, 3:30 game, another earlier game. Getting some of these trash ACC teams getting 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night games. What's the deal? I don't know why Clemson can't get these games. Clemson and Pitt would be one of the more decent games this year, and they're still barely getting past lunchtime here. So I don't really get why you got, say, Miami, Georgia Tech, and Duke, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is worth getting 7 p.m.s, and Clemson's not. I don't really understand this at all. But anyways, Pittsburgh 5-4, 4-4 in the conference, 3:30 p.m. traveling to Clemson, number 4 overall in the nation, 7-1 overall, 6-1 in conference. I say in conference because Notre Dame is now in the conference, as we all know. ESPN's FPI prediction power index here has 95% chance to Clemson. And that would mean carry the 1 to divide by 16. That would mean 5% chance for Pittsburgh to win this game. You got Kenny Pickett, a guy who continues to look really well. I mean, I think he's no different than, say, an Ian Book. He might not be as good. He might not have as good of a team surrounding him, but he's a decent player, and he's now back from injuries that he had earlier on in the season. So some of those 4 losses were during the time when Kenny Pickett was not playing the game. Alan and I stopped picking with Pittsburgh when Pickett was on the bench, injured. When Pickett came back, Alan and I started going back on the Pickett train, and it's worked out. So Kenny Pickett, the way he goes, that team goes. So depending on what he can do, 2,003 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, more passing yards than Mr. Trevor Lawrence right now. But and he's had actually more games out, I believe. So take that for what it is. And then you have. You've got Travis Etienne. You've got Vincent Davis. Excuse me, Travis Etienne's for us. Vincent Davis 113 carries, 366 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Really, they kind of an even team, about 100 yards rushing a game, about 270 yards passing a game. But their defense is really what kind of solidifies them. Yards allowed, 311 yards allowed this year. Clemson's yards allowed this year, 305. So pretty similar there. One thing that's telling is that rushing defense, 87.3 yards rushing. And again, like I said, against Virginia Tech, the best rushing team in the ACC, locked them down. Only allowed 156 yards rushing, no rushing touchdowns, and ended up winning the game and getting in the backfield very frequently against Virginia Tech there. So that's something that I've got my alert on. They beat Virginia Tech 47-14. They also had a chance to play Florida State at Tallahassee. Go figure, they allow players to play there. Even though the team, like I said, had at least 10 players not play because of COVID issues, 41-17. So 2 games back to back, they have won by 40 points or more. So a team that can score, a team that has a good defense, going up a Clemson team who can also score 503 yards per game in offense, 353 through the air, 150 on the ground. We all know Clemson has struggled rushing the ball, and I think they're going to continue to struggle rushing the ball against a Pittsburgh team that is one of the best rushing defenses in the country. So that's something to watch out there. There's an advantage for Pittsburgh that I don't like, and it kind of makes me a little bit nervous. As you know, Clemson's last game was on November 7th. So many weeks ago against Notre Dame. So they had a bye week, and then Florida State didn't play. And so it's been kind of tough to be sitting around as a Clemson fan wondering if the Tigers are going to get their chance to get back on the field again. I believe they will, because Pittsburgh has shown that they don't care how many players they're down. They're still going to play their games, unlike other teams that we talk about. So I'll start with Houston. As you heard my concerns here, should I really be concerned? Because before the show, you're telling me that this is going to be a beat down. This is going to be a take out your frustrations from Florida State, from Notre Dame, from COVID in general, beat down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's not a point spread high enough. I understand your concern that Pittsburgh has a very good rush defense, and they do. They have a good defensive front. But Miami also had a good defensive front, and Clemson ran all over them. I feel like they're on the same level as Miami. Clemson's going to be healthier. Clemson's going, assuming that there isn't COVID issues this week with Clemson. You're talking about getting a healthy team back for the majority part of it. Pittsburgh's still probably going to be short a lot of players. I'm assuming some are going to be on defense. I feel like having a couple of factors factor into this is why Clemson is going to make this easy work, quick work, blowout city, if you will. One, the loss to Notre Dame. That's already, they've heard about that for 2 weeks. Now they've had to hear about it for 3 weeks, and they're tired of hearing about that. Second thing is this whole Florida State thing and everybody coming to the aid of poor, lowly Florida State, little old Florida State. You can't say that you can't blame them for anything. Clemson's just mean old Clemson. They don't care about anything. They're tired of hearing that, and they got their coaches back. So that's another rallying cry. This is similar to the 2011 Carolina rant. They're going to come out on fire for that. Thirdly, and this is the most important thing, if Dabo sees a highlight of the 2016 field goal, that's reason enough for him to score an additional 14 points in this game. That's why I think Clemson's going to just roll on Saturday.
So, Alan, I'll pass it to you. Do you have similar thoughts about the game and how Clemson's going to perform against Pittsburgh?
Well, look, this is kind of an interesting game. Look, we've kind of been relatively high on Pitt this year. Like you said, Pitt's 5-4, as you mentioned, and Kenny Pickett was out for 2 games. It just happened to be the 2 biggest games of the year outside of Clemson. He was out for Notre Dame. He was out for Miami. So it really would have been good to see what happened in those 2 games, and we weren't able to. In those other 2 losses, by the way, they were to Boston College and NC State, both only by 1 point. So Pittsburgh plays a lot of close games. I think there's the potential, even though Clemson has gotten healthier, we all know James Kelsey's going to be out. So there's potential for Kenny Pickett to kind of exploit the middle of the field a little bit in the passing game. And he may be able to do that. If he has time to throw, he may be able to do that. I like having Tyler Davis back and having Mike Jones back, assuming both of those guys play and they are healthy. That's going to do a lot for our pass rush. And it's going to do a lot for our coverage ability with Mike Jones out there as well. So I think Clemson's going to be able to make up for that more than they have been when they were down 2 linebackers as opposed to 1. So look, I think I'm just going to have to kind of give everything away. My instinct this whole time was to pick Pittsburgh in this game plus the points because, again, I think they're a pretty decent team. I think there's a weakness that we have that they can exploit. And plain and simple, Clemson hasn't gotten off to a good start in the past 2 games that they've played. Now they've been off 2 weeks, so they may be a little rusty. But going back to something Houston said, I mean, the fact of the matter is a travesty just happened in college football. Dabo's ticked about it, and I think Pitt's just the team in the way when the tragedy occurred. And I think Clemson makes a statement this week, and I hate that it's got to be the Pittsburgh Panthers, but I think that's the way it's going to be. So actually, right now, I am probably leaning.
Whoa.
To cover that.
Whoa. By the way, I love the blue and yellow. I hate the pointed numbers. Just don't know what it is. You know, it's like you got that number 8. The pick at number 8 is like that number 8 you make in middle school. The S, yeah. And I hate that. You know, line, connect. I hate that. But if you look, total defense, Notre Dame in the ACC, total defense, Notre Dame 1, Clemson 2, Pittsburgh 3. Passing defense, Louisville 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, Pittsburgh 4. Rushing defense, Notre Dame 1, Pittsburgh 2, Clemson 3. So you've got 2 solid defenses going up against each other. Scoring defense, Notre Dame 1, Clemson 2, Pittsburgh 3. Where the challenge is in rushing offense, passing offense, total offense. Total offense, Clemson 2, Pittsburgh 12. Passing offense, Clemson 1, Pittsburgh 4. So Pittsburgh shows you that they're having more success passing the ball. Rushing offense, Clemson, I don't like to mention this, even with Travis Etienne, 11th in the ACC in rushing offense. Pittsburgh, though, 13th. So we're talking about a team, out of all the griping we've done in rushing offense, is worse than Clemson rushing the ball. So just keep that in mind. Scoring overall, Clemson number 1 at 45 points per game. Pittsburgh 9 at 29.8 points per game. So if you look at the average, that's about 20 points there, give or take 2021. So you're looking, it's going to be close. The spread is there at 20. I got 24 right now, gentlemen, or 25. I got minus 25 for Clemson. I think that Vegas does that on purpose because they know the stats. Another thing I like to look at is opponent third down allowed percentage. Notre Dame 1, Clemson 2, Pittsburgh 3. This defense for Pittsburgh, even with the loss of Paris Ford, who opted out for the NFL, I really feel like that this team is going to be very close to playing a team like, say, Boston College. Oh, by the way, Alan, you mentioned it, lost 31-30. Mm-hmm. So my concern is, Houston, I'm going to pass it to you now. Tell me now that I've said that, has that changed your thoughts at all that Clemson, that they will not be able to keep it within 25 points? So if you started this game with the defense that we know Pitt has, plus 25 starting the game, you think that Clemson can still beat them?
Yes, without a doubt. Once again, this is the best team, especially if healthy, that Pitt is going to play all year, all right? Notre Dame, they were good. They're a good team. Notre Dame didn't play us when we were fully healthy. Fully healthy Clemson is the best team. Pitt, Virginia Tech, if we make up with Florida State, and Notre Dame will play all year. If we're healthy, we will cover.
Okay. All right. I got a lot of people in the chat, too, telling me as well. I just want to go out there. You know, I'm a statistician here. I like to look at the numbers on the board and then make my decision based on that. It makes me a little nervous. I'm telling you, I feel like this could be another Boston College type game. However, Boston College did not have Trevor Lawrence in it. I understand that. And Notre Dame did not have Trevor Lawrence in it as well, even though DJ a lot better against Notre Dame than he was against Boston College. But DJ did come back from 18 points down. Do you feel like that Pittsburgh has any chance of having a lead at all? Alan, I'll pass it to you.
Well, I mean, if you look at the past couple of Clemson games, you'd have to say they have a chance at getting the lead. I don't think it's going to happen in this game. I just don't. I think Venables is gonna have a good game plan with a more healthy team, and I don't think Pitt's going to be able to get a lot going on offense right now. I just don't think it's going to happen. We've talked about it all year long how important Tyler Davis is. Is Tyler Davis going to be 100%? I don't know. Right now, apparently he's going to play. Everybody thinks he's going to play, at least assumes he's going to play. So you got to think he's at least close to 100%, or they may hold him back a little bit. But if you've got Tyler Davis and Brian Brzee on the inside to help that pass rush, and you've got a Mike Jones who can cover in space, as well as, of course, Balin Spector, like I said, it's kind of making up for some of the things we might lack on defense. I think they're going to have a tough time moving the ball.
John says Mike Jones came out today and mentioned that he feels he's 100%. He feels as good as he did before Syracuse game. So Beautiful. that's got to give you some excitement too there as well. Let's go around the horn here. Houston, Mr. 7-1. I'm assuming you're picking Clemson to cover the spread.
1,000% yes. Clemson covers. Clemson wins this game. I'm going to say they cover handily. They win this one. I'm going to say, I'm not quite ready to say in the 50s range, but I think they win this one 48-14.
Alan, I'll pass it to you.
Not too bad. I think Clemson, I think they kind of come out firing. I think they get a good lead at halftime. I think you might even see some DJ in this game right now. I'm going to take Clemson 41-13. Just covering the spread.
Just barely covering. The computer has 41-22. A 19-point winner. Guys, I love you. I really do. I love Clemson. But Clemson is 2-6 against the spread this year. Can't do it. I'm going lone wolf. Not because I hate Clemson. Not because I want to be ragged on YouTube for the next week or maybe entire year if I do lose this game. But I just statistically... 24 points, good defense. Clemson not been good against the spread. They've hurt me. I've picked them literally every week until this week. And it's because of the defense. And because really last week, I didn't pick the plus points. And every one of those teams just about won. So underdogs are doing really well this year. I think I saw a stat out there where it's like, I think it was 1 week, maybe 6 weeks in, it was like 73% underdogs. So I don't know. It's been kind of tough for especially the road underdogs there, they've been doing well. So I'm going to go lone wolf. God, it just hurts me to say that. It just really does.
That's cool. It's a win-win for you.
It's a win-win. It really is.
Who cares?
If you look at it, it's a win-win. If Clemson blows them out, hey, guess what? My favorite team blew them out. If Clemson doesn't blow them out, then...
Alan, it's a win-win for us too. Because if Clemson blows them out,
that's right.
For the rest of the year.
That's exactly right. I'm good with that. And, Morgan, by the way, I'm sorry to go back on you here real quick, but our man Four Paws Bill gets in with a great point, and I didn't realize this, that Notre Dame actually does have a game the week before the ACC Championship. I guess it's a rescheduled game with Wake Forest.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. Apologize, but I still, if I was Clemson, I still wouldn't play that game. I'd take the extra week to prepare if it was me.
Well, I mean, considering that we're having to fight against Ohio States of the world who already only have 7 games,
right? It
just gets even more frustrating to me that we're going to be arguing over an 11th freaking game. An 11th game, guys. I mean, we shouldn't even be playing that many games anyways in this moment. I don't believe in it. I didn't like it when they first came out with it. I felt like they got trolled against the SEC at the beginning. When the SEC came out against them in that case, they didn't want to come back. Made John Swofford look ridiculous. And so I don't think that the ACC should be playing this many games. If we were in the Big Ten, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the season would be over. We'd be waiting on the playoffs by now. Just think about that. It's just not fair. But anyway, so that's our predictions. Clemson Pittsburgh traveling to Clemson this weekend. I hope you get the chance to watch it. Maybe you get the chance to go see it. Send us a picture, tag us in it over on Twitter at The Morgan T Show, or follow us on Facebook, The Morgan Thomas Show, or YouTube, The Morgan Thomas Show, or if you're listening to us as a podcast, anywhere you get podcasts. But let me tell you about our third segment sponsors as we get into our picks against the spread. That is Daniel Weber State Farm Insurance, 518 College Avenue, Suite 190, Clemson, South Carolina. 864-722-9083. Go check out Daniel Weber State Farm Insurance for all your auto, home, property, business, life, and health insurance needs. Go check him out. You can see the office hours there. You can see the number, the website, insuringclemson.com. Daniel Weber is a business graduate, class of 2011 from Clemson University, and he is someone who loves the Tigers, supports our show, but also can help protect your family and your property. So go check it out, your business as well. Go check it out, Daniel Weber State Farm Insurance right there. We really appreciate it. If you miss this ad and you're watching us live online, you'll get to see it there in the corner. It kind of cycles through. So just write down the number, give him a chat. Hey, let him give you a quote at least, you know. On Google, he's got a bunch of really good reviews. They say his office is beautiful, quiet, quaint, and just the staff is so friendly. So go check out Daniel. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show there. And then Heating and Cooling Services, Inc., Mark and Jason Trammell, 864-224-7655 for all your heating and cooling needs in the summer or the winter. As you know, it is getting colder, and now I do officially have the heat on. Alan has had plenty of work through them as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. They've killed it for me. And, you know, I told you they saved me a ton of money. I've had my heating unit, or actually it was my AC, worked on a lot of times. And every year I would have to have it worked on again. Hundreds of dollars here, hundreds of dollars there. And finally they came in, thought I was going to have to get a new system, and said, you know what? Actually, this part is probably still under warranty. And it was by 1 year. They made some calls, did what I needed to do, saved me thousands of dollars. And I really appreciate the good work they did. But you're going to want to call Heating Cooling Services, Inc., Mark or Jason Trammell, 864-224-7655. Tell them the Morgan Thomas Show sent you.
All right, gentlemen. This is our picks against the spread. We're going to do our ACC games. We're not going to do top 5 games. We're going to do top 3 games. As I said, I like to nerf Houston now that he's got his little run going. Not only that, Houston, you are going to go first, my friend, and really put the pressure on because you cannot beat the show host. You can. Alan did last year and destroyed me, but he didn't destroy me. I was like 68%. He was 73%. I don't know, 72%. I don't know. But he did really well. But so we'll start off ACC action. Earlier game. Well, I don't know why I put this one first. Why would I put this one first? I don't know. Anyways, number 2, okay. Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, 8-0, 7-0 at conference. Ugh. And we know why they're 8-0. 3:30 game. This is a Friday. That's why I put it first. This is a Friday game. Number 25, North Carolina Tar Heels, 6-2 overall. 2 teams that can definitely score. Notre Dame, 462 yards per game. North Carolina, 563 yards per game. The problem, though, is North Carolina also allows a ton of yards from their opposing teams. Their last 2 games, they beat Wake Forest 59-53. They beat Duke 56-24. Before that, they lost traveling to Virginia 44-41. Notre Dame, you know that. They haven't lost a game at all. They kind of struggled a little bit against Boston College and then had a barn burner against Clemson in a double overtime winner thriller there. ESPN FPI, 73% Notre Dame winner. Right now, the spread showing -4.5. Head scratcher there for me. I don't really know why it's -4.5. I'm guessing it's because Notre Dame has such a explosive offense. But if you know, I mean, not Notre Dame, but North Carolina. North Carolina has an explosive offense. You know, if you watch North Carolina at all this year, you know that all they need is one pass to make a touchdown. I mean, Howell to Daz Newsome or to De'Ami Brown, those 2 guys can really light it up and can score really at any given moment, at any part of the field. So, to me, +4.5 would mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be wrong because I'm terrible at math. I'll start with Alan. No, I'm just kidding. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, 4.5 would mean that they would, if I pick them, they would basically have kept it closer than Clemson did, because Clemson lost by 7. So really, that makes me a little nervous there picking them. So I'm not going to do it. I can't believe that they would keep it closer to Notre Dame than Clemson did. So give me Notre Dame to cover the spread -4.5.
So that's not a bad thing if North Carolina keeps it closer than Clemson. Here's the reason why. Our offense did not have A, Trevor Lawrence, B, Frank Ladson. We had Joe Ngata for like one play. And look at the offensive output that DJ Uiagalelei was able to do with Amari Rodgers and Cornell Powell. That was literally the offense, and he threw for 439 yards on that defense. If you have the offense that North Carolina has with Bo Corrales, De'Ami Brown, Daz Newsome, Javonte Williams, and Michael Carter, along with Sam Howell, I think this game is closer than a lot of people, and it's going to look similar to last year's game with Clemson and North Carolina. North Carolina is going to be in this game. It's going to be higher scoring. It's going to be one of these games where Notre Dame is going to have to hang on. I'm not ready to say there's going to be an upset, but I think it's going to be under that 4.5. I think it's going to be really, really close, and Notre Dame's going to be sweating it out at the end.
This would mean Notre Dame, this would be their closest game possible, or the closest game this season. They have not lost a game by less than 5. Their closest game was that 5-game winner against Louisville. So they haven't had an opponent get closer than 5.
Yeah, look, I think UNC has a good offense. I've ridden UNC all year, and they've done pretty well for me for the most part, covering the spreads. Notre Dame is a really good team. We saw that their lines of scrimmage are much better than most of what they face. UNC's defense is atrocious. I think Notre Dame should be able to score on them. But look, a game at home, a supercharged kind of game, they're going to be wanting to knock off the number 2 team in the country. That's kind of how it works, or number 3, number 4, whatever the heck Notre Dame is ranked now. And that's just the way it works. They're going to come out firing. I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the end, but I think it comes down to the fact that Notre Dame understands what's at stake. If they lose to North Carolina, and let's say they get into the ACC championship, a one-loss team against a one-loss Clemson, whom they beat earlier, and I think they know Clemson is going to take their revenge and get the better of them the next game, they are out of the playoffs. All right, 2 losses puts them out of the playoffs. They understand what's at stake. They take care of business and win by a touchdown plus against UNC. I'm taking Notre Dame.
Alan, let's not start this week. And what I mean by that is us picking all the games the same way. Even though we did have a winning record, and Houston really got away with basically cheating. But anyways, go ahead, Houston. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, keep letting me be a lone wolf here. I'll be a lone wolf. Just keep letting it happen.
But me and you just picked opposite in Clemson, so we're 1-1.
Yeah, so I'm lone wolf the last game. So next one up, let me exit out this one here. Next one up, North Carolina State, 6-3, 5-3 overall in conference. A 12 p.m. game on Saturday against Syracuse. Probably the worst team in America. Probably the worst team in the entire world, in the entire universe. At 1-8 overall, Syracuse, and haven't won a game since well before their Liberty Day of October 17th. They've lost the last 5 games to Liberty, Clemson, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisville, and North Carolina State just barely squeaked by Liberty, beat Florida State, and lost to Miami and UNC, but then beat Duke. So North Carolina State is a team that I believe is a decent team overall. Their defense can't keep them with the better teams out there, and they end up losing those. But I was kind of surprised that they actually ended up pulling out a win against Liberty, even though, like I said, it was at the very end that they barely kind of made it through. But for me, Syracuse is literally the worst. -14.5 for NC State. I believe the public right now is picking 98% to North Carolina State. So go ahead and let me get on some of that and give me North Carolina State.
Yeah, Syracuse is terrible and dead to me. I'm with you as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say I would rather trade Syracuse out and have Liberty in the ACC. So go ahead, Syracuse stinks. Give me NC State.
Sorry about that. I cut you off there, Houston. I forgot You are supposed to be ahead of me. You're actually supposed to be ahead of Morgan, so Morgan cut you off too. But whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
No one's ahead of me. Come on, let's take that. Let's not get crazy. Okay, nobody is ahead of me on this show, right? All right, so come on. Louisville at Boston College. This one's interesting too. This weekend, I got Caesar's Palace says even, but OddsShark has +1 to Louisville. So let's take the +1, -1 to Boston College. So let's make it interesting. Let's not make it a straight up pick. Let's make it interesting. Give the +1, -1. So Boston College right now is the slight favorite at -1, 52.5% ESPN FPI. I watched the Louisville-Syracuse game, and even though, yes, Louisville racked up 30-0, it was against a Syracuse team that really is just bad. Really, really bad. The two teams that they played before that were good, they lost to. Virginia and Virginia Tech. Florida State, not a good team either. They won against them. Notre Dame, good team. They lost to them. So Louisville, again, struggles against some of the better teams, seems to do really well against the bad teams. And they have the turnover bug. Louisville was turning the ball over. Malik Cunningham was throwing interceptions left and right. I mean, they both had interceptions. Get this, I didn't say this for Syracuse. Syracuse had like 7 first downs compared to 20-something from Louisville, okay? I mean, it was like ridiculously lopsided in that game. And again, against such a team that's that bad, they still had 3 turnovers. Louisville cannot stop turning the ball over. I consider them to continue to turn the ball over. And considering it's at Boston College, where there will be maybe no fans and a bunch of cardboard boxes, I would say go ahead and give me Boston College. I'd rather take them with the win there because, like I said, it's basically straight up, but I think they'll win by more than 1 point. So give me Boston College.
Yeah, this line is fishy.
Let me write that down. Fishy.
Yeah, it's a fishy line. I don't understand how it's this close. Boston College is a better team than Louisville. Phil Jurkovec is probably, to me, he's in the top tier of quarterbacks in the ACC this year behind Trevor Lawrence, Sam Howell, and Ian Book. It's Phil Jurkovec right after that. He's very good, and he could play himself into being a potential draft pick, not this year, but next year's draft. He's that good to me. I think that they have a very sound defense. I think that Boston College has just a different, I guess you could say, momentum for their team right now, the way they're trending. Louisville is kind of still trying to figure their way out right now. I think Boston College is going to win this big. Give me Boston College.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Houston. I think there's something kind of weird about this line. I think BC should be favored by much more. Louisville's getting credit for a 30-0 victory over a garbage team, and even a game that they didn't even look very good, even though they won 30-0. Syracuse was down to their third string quarterback or whatever, which I wish I would have known before I picked that game. But moving on, I think BC wins this one pretty big as well. So yeah, definitely give me the Eagles minus the points.
Void. We didn't lose that game. Void
it out.
Next up, Duke at Georgia Tech, the battle of the 2-win teams, 7 p.m. game. These two teams have played almost 20 games, and it's a 7 p.m. game, and there's 4 wins between the both of them. Okay? All right, so that's how ridiculous this is. But I didn't say, I agree with Casey in the chat. I don't necessarily mind 3:30 games. Not too early, not too late, good time. But give me Duke. I mean, I'm just going to pick. I feel like they're the better team. This is even in Caesar's Palace, even at oddshark.com. So we're going to call this a straight up pick. This is our only one we've ever had all year as a straight up pick against the spread. Is even right now. So basically, what you got, Houston?
This is going to be an ugly game. Might be the most boring game in this year. Both these teams are terrible. They're trash city. Give me Duke to win this one 3-2.
Oh, gosh. All right. I see my opportunity, and I'm going to pounce on it.
Oh,
all
boy.
Right, so, yeah, Duke is garbage. They've killed me all year. Doesn't matter what I pick. Duke always loses the game for me, whether I pick them or not. Tried to ride the Chase Bryce train early, then decided that they were utter utter garbage, and I went against them, and they still decided to win. So I'm going to take Georgia Tech here. I think they've got a 7 o'clock a night game. They're going to be fired up. The Yellow Jackets are going to be swarming everywhere, and I'm going to give GT a chance to win this one and gain me a game on the group here.
Is that literally? Have you waited all year to say? To say?
Believe it or not, that one was just off the cuff.
all in on Georgia Tech. Put it all in.
Yeah. So I'm putting you down, Lone Wolf. There, 22 interceptions combined for both of these quarterbacks. How? Okay. All right. Here's the question: what happens? More touchdown passes or interceptions?
Interceptions, hands down.
That's very possible.
Next up, one team that we really don't want to talk about much anymore. Virginia travels to Florida State. We'll see if Florida State wants to play this week. 4-4 overall, 2-6 overall for Florida State. Florida State stinks. As Houston likes to say, I'm going to steal that from you. Virginia, -9.5. I can't pick anybody other than Virginia in this situation just because I'm that mad.
Well, Florida State had a decommit on Sunday. You have a few more of those this week. They may not play the game. I'm going to have to pick Virginia, assuming the game is played. I honestly think Florida State is about to fold. Like, if you're not willing to play Clemson and the line's that big for Virginia, why play against Virginia either?
UVA -30. Give me the Wahoos.
All right. I think that's all of our ACC games. And Alan got a chance to pick our top 3 games of the week. And so this is our top 3 games of the week that are not the ACC. If you missed our ACC games, go check out our other clip on the ACC specific games and Clemson as well. But thanks so much for the support. Top 3 games of the week, starting with number 15, Iowa State, 6-2 overall, traveling to Austin. 12 p.m. game against number 20, Texas Longhorns, 5-2 overall. FPI right now, 71.9% chance for Texas to win. However, this doesn't call into the fact that Iowa State is 6-1 overall in the conference. They are atop of the Big 12 right now in the conference. Brock Purdy struggled a little bit, 6 interceptions on the year, but Breece Hall has been doing really well and getting even better. Over 1,000 yards rushing, over 1,100 yards rushing, and 15 total touchdowns right now on the ground. Really, really great job. Maybe one of the best running performances we've had all year from Mr. Hall. So good job there. This one, though, Sam Ehlinger, man, if anybody can keep you close and keep you in a game, Sam Ehlinger can do it. And this is at home, like I said. But, again, Iowa State's coming off a 3-game win streak. Texas also a 3-game win streak. Texas won at home versus West Virginia, away against Oklahoma State, and versus Baylor back at home. The wins for Iowa State, we've got last game, K-State. They beat them 45-0. Baylor 38-31. And Kansas, 52-22. For me, I'm going to go ahead and say that I take Iowa State in this one because there's so much going on. There's so much at stake with this 6-1 overall in the conference. I know Texas is one of those teams that can stick around until, quadruple overtime. I get it. I think that Texas, according to the FPI, says they're going to just win the game outright. But it's -2 on the spread. I don't know. I'm looking at OddsShark, and when I look at the prediction here, it's 50-50 public consensus here. Iowa State, the computer says Iowa State's going to win by 4. So give me Iowa State plus we've got +2 at Caesars, +1.5 at OddsShark. Give me +1.5 Iowa State. I'll take +1.5.
Give me Iowa State on this one as well. There's a big difference between one category. If you look at both their offenses, you look at their average output a year between Texas and Iowa State is I think a half-yard difference. They both average like 470-something yards a game, something absurd like that. The difference is you look at the defense. Texas is giving up almost as many yards as they're putting up. Iowa State is giving up about 100 yards less. Iowa State has a very sound defense. I think that's going to be enough to get them by in this game. Brees Hall is going to run wild. Brock Purdy is going to have a pretty good game too. Give me Iowa State.
All right, I got to start gaining some points somewhere, right? I actually had Texas marked on this one. I think I'm going to stick with Texas. Sam Ehlinger, look, has been outstanding as he has been for the last couple of years. He always seems to come up in these big games. You know, Morgan and I picked him. I believe it was against Oklahoma, maybe, or something like that, and that crazy overtime or triple overtime or quadruple overtime, whatever game it was. I hate betting against him in these big games, especially at home. You know, he's just a gamer. Guy's got some major skills, a lot of heart. Plays really hard, you know, kind of takes the team on his shoulders, and I'm going to take Texas -1.5 to cover this.
I think if we go back to the errors and corrections, I think that was Houston that went in with you. I believe that I did not pick Ehlinger. I almost want to say that I picked against him, but, you know, maybe not. I don't know. You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, so maybe you know wrong. Better than me. If anybody I'd like to be wrong to, it'd be to you two lovely gentlemen there.
Of course.
All right, so number 22, this is a good one, the Iron Bowl. 22, Auburn Tigers, 5-2 overall. Been getting a little bit better every week, Bo Nix has, but also have been playing garbage teams. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Alabama Crimson Tide, number 1 overall, 7-0, probably one of the best teams in the nation. Like I said, number 1 overall, it just looks like no one can really stop them right now. And I would have to say, as a Clemson fan, hard to argue that, considering where Clemson is right now. Not saying at the end of the year or maybe with a month off to prepare, but hard to argue that Alabama is not the best team in the nation. Right now, +24 at Caesars, +24.5 over at Oddshark, I believe, if I double check. Let me see here. Yeah, so 24.5, that's what we'll go with, is Alabama favored. Bo Nix, like I said, has been doing better and getting incrementally better every single game. And I think that the passing game has gotten, you know, is starting to kind of figure out, he's starting to kind of get it together, I guess. But I don't know. Like I said, Louisiana State, LSU, not a very good defense. Tennessee, not a very good defense. Ole Miss, as we know, not a very good defense. So what can you really say other than, I mean, then they lost to South Carolina, won against Arkansas. Alabama, on the other hand, just blew out Kentucky, blanked Mississippi State, and, you know, beat Tennessee better than Tennessee got beat by Auburn. So that's another teller there. But the question is, if Auburn starts the game with 24.5, with so much on the line being a rivalry game, what can happen? Well, here's the deal. I looked up last year, if you guys remember. So if you look up the schedule, I'm pull it up here real quick. 2019. This was a 48-45 loss at Auburn. Alabama lost that game. Last regular season game of the year, November 30th. And caused them to drop to a 2-loss Alabama, or they became a 2-loss. They went 10-2 that year in the regular season. Mac Jones was the quarterback at the time. Alabama would have won that game if Mac Jones hadn't have thrown 2 pick sixes in that game. I say this is a redemption game for Mr. Jones. I say with this offense the way it looks, regardless of how much better Auburn has been doing, I think Mac Jones looks great, and go ahead and give me Alabama to beat down their rival this year. So I'm taking Alabama.
If this game was in Jordan Air, I would take Auburn. However, it's not. I think Auburn might be in it for a quarter, and then Alabama's going to run away with it. I'll say this. We haven't got to that point in the year where Alabama has like that late season game like a Georgia or a Mississippi State where you're like, well, this is 3 quarters in and this is closer. I don't think that's going to happen this week. Maybe down the road when they have a couple other games, maybe in the SEC championship game. It's bound to happen. It's happened every other year. We'll see if they can make it through that. But I'm going to say they cover against the Auburn Tigers this week.
Yeah, there's really no reason to believe that Auburn keeps us within 30. They're not a great team. It's kind of some faux success they've had here lately. I don't believe in them. I don't trust them. If they were at Auburn and it was a full capacity stadium, I might be tempted to take the 24.5. I'm not tempted right now. Give me Bama.
Last game of the night, Oklahoma versus West Virginia. Travels to West Virginia, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Morgantown. ESPN FPI 74% to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been looking really good. They look good against OK State. They scored 62 against Kansas and Texas Tech. And as you know, if they keep fighting, they have a chance. And Iowa State lose, they have a chance to jump right back up there and make their bid for a Big 12 championship there, or be the winner of the Big 12. But West Virginia's got a pretty decent defense, better defense than Oklahoma, even though I believe that Oklahoma's defense is getting better and has been getting better since that Texas game. Since the Texas game, the highest game was 28 points. The rest, 9 points, 13 points, 14 points. So not even two scores. There only one game with more than two scores, and that was Texas Tech. The other three were under two scores, or two scores or less. So you can tell that something's been clicking. And Spencer Rattler now, 2,319 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So kind of settled into the offense there. I'm going to hold my pick until I hear what Houston has to say, because he's always got some great insights. And as you know, I'm only one game ahead of Houston. So I'm holding my pick.
Okay, Mike Norvell. Hey, Mike Norvell.
Holding my pick.
Good. Oh, okay. Oh, I got to compose myself here. I'm going to go with West Virginia as far as not to win, but I feel like can keep it under that 11. I think Oklahoma will win this game by 2 scores, but I don't think it's going to get over 11 points. I think this is the kind of game that looks like a 37-27 type game. West Virginia's got a pretty solid bunch on defense. Neil Brown coaches defense really well. West Virginia's offense isn't that bad. I think that West Virginia's in this game. Oklahoma pulls away, but wins only by 10. And therefore, West Virginia is my pick this week.
So do I go next, or are you waiting for me to, Morgan?
Alan, go ahead and go next. I want to know.
Well, unfortunately for you, Morgan, I don't have any brilliant insight, but I will tell you that I'm taking West Virginia here as well. I agree with Houston for the most part. For the life of me, I wanted to take Oklahoma. They've been playing some really good football lately. They've been scoring a ton of points, and West Virginia hasn't scored as many points as we're used to seeing a West Virginia team score. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But they do have a defense that seems to rise up on occasion, especially in big games. And I think this is going to be one of those times where they keep it to about a 10-point game.
Okay, so looking at some stats I like to look at. Opponent third down conversion. West Virginia, 36%, 6th in the Big 12. Oklahoma, you would think, we always rag on them about having a bad defense, right? 2nd in the Big 12 at 27%. 27% third down conversion percentage is actually better than Clemson. So Clemson, I think, is like 35%. Not as good as Notre Dame. Notre Dame's like 25%. So let's look. West Virginia, basically, looks like they're heavy. They're a little bit more heavy on the passing. Who has the better passing defense? Does Oklahoma have a good passing defense? About average. They're both about the same. Actually, West Virginia has the best passing defense in the Big 12.
Houston, just so you know, he's stalling and waiting on a text reply from Mr. Walt Deptula right now.
Yes, Walt, please check your text messages. Please check your Twitter inbox currently.
I'm going to have to contest this, okay? This should be contested. We're going to have to go to the Supreme Court for this one.
Wow.
All right?
Wow. I'm waiting for my Dominion results to come in through Parler. You know what? The climax is not going to happen, because I'm going to pick West Virginia. I think that they have a good pass defense. Oklahoma is going to try to do what they can through the passing game. And again, I cannot allow Houston to get a game on me. So I am gaming the system.
Thanks,
I'm gaming
Walt.
the system here. Give me West Virginia. I was leaning towards them anyways, gentlemen. I was leaning towards them anyways.
Right.
If you believe that, then you're crazy. But again, thanks. That's the end of our picks against the spread. If you missed any of those picks, I see AJS is over in the picks against the spread saying that what did we say about the Friday night game? Well, go check out our highlights. I'll try to put it up before Friday. I've got so many things going on, before the holiday break, so I didn't get any of the highlights up last week rather. But I'll try to get them up tonight, and I'll be working a little bit later on this week trying to get everything shored up. But I'll try to get you some stuff so you can watch it over the holiday weekend. But again, you can check us out: Facebook, The Morgan Thomas Show; YouTube, as well, same name; and then anywhere you listen to podcasts. Also, SouthlineClub.com is a place where we don't write often, but when we do, once or twice a week, Houston is one of the more consistent writers out there. And go check out some of his articles that he has out there for each week. He gives you kind of like a setting the table where he talks about some of the good games the week to watch, for that weekend. So go check that out, SouthlineClub.com. If you want to stick with us throughout the week. Twitter is always a great place for us at The Morgan T Show. That's my, Twitter handle there, and I will reply back to you. I'll talk to you, whatever you need. But then again, subscribe and follow over on Facebook or YouTube, and sign up or subscribe or whatever you do on a podcast. We really appreciate it. For myself, Alan, and Houston, we hope you have a great and happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday. Eat a lot of food. Enjoy it for us. Watch some football and have some time with your family, or limited amount of family. I know it's not the same as it's been in the past, but please, if you can't be with those ones that you love, please give them a call and tell them, go Tigers. We'll see everyone at the top of the hill.